Email and SMS. You're either going to do it right or not going to do it at all. And that's the topic for today's Email Never Sleeps. I'm Andrew Kordick, your host, and I'm really, really happy to announce my guest today, Tricia Babishkin. And you and I have known each other and been in the same circles for a few years now. And I'm so glad to finally get you on here and to chat with you. So, Tricia, give us your background, give us your deets, tell us all about yourself.
Sure. I'm just a girl who loves email. I do. I love companies that send email. I like the people that receive emails and give us their email addresses. And I
Mhm.
love the data that backs it. At core, I've been around the space for 20 years.
Yeah.
Currently the director of strategy and analytics for Shaw Scott, which is a boutique lifecycle marketing agency.
Mhm.
I've supported hundreds of clients and told them how to email better and
Yeah.
really meet the needs of their customers, because that's really what this is all about. It's not about selling stuff, it's about meeting needs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you and I have known each other a long time, and we're the lesson of this is a small world.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you
you know,
never
and it's funny when we talked about this topic a while back, I think you said to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have a strong opinion about a few things, and so do I, right? And so I think this is a perfect one. And I'm a big fan of Shaw Scott and Melissa Shaw and what she's doing over there. So let's jump into it. I'm going to make the first bold statement. I
lay
don't
it
find a lot of brands today that do email and SMS together. I always sort of feel like it's a very separate, very siloed sort of two channels. And I got to tell you, it pisses me off, right? Because I think we're missing opportunity. And so the title of this, right, you either can do it right or don't do it all, I think is perfect. I'm not here to rant and rave, but what I am here to do is you've been doing this for a while, and so have I. And I'm curious what you're seeing in the marketplaces. SMS continues to evolve, and it's getting expensive, right? What are you seeing, and why are we talking about this today? Why are you so passionate about email and SMS?
I think at the core, it is so easy to do SMS wrong.
Mhm.
And it's harder to do email right. And
Mhm.
SMS is so easy to do wrong. You're
Mhm.
right. People treat it like it's two different channels. They don't think about it as being a supportive of each other channel.
Mhm.
I think some of it was evolution in the space. We had email providers that were doing email. We do email only. And then we had those upstarts out there doing SMS. And they pitched it like it was a separate channel. You'd reach different people, those kids these days, those
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
They're in that space. So we have a lot of conflicting legacy lies, and that's truly
Mhm. Yeah.
it's lies. We were
Mhm.
told things that we should have expected different stuff, and people forgot that they support the same program.
Yep.
We should treat it like similar sort of owned channels. If you think about
Mhm.
it, we talk about our paid channels being different than our own channels. We should treat them like they're the same thing
Yep.
in the owned space, but they talk to different audiences. They should have different purposes.
And I'm
So
gonna be, yeah, and I'm
completely
gonna
agree
be
with your first bold statement.
I'm also gonna add a little onto that. You know, if you are part of a program and you wear the hats, both SMS and email, or you have a separate email person or a separate SMS person, let's be honest here. There's not going to be a lot of people that are going to be hugely different that only want to receive SMS or only want to receive email. They're pretty much the same customer, right? And so I've often heard in organizations where like, well, we need to treat our SMS audience X and email Y. And I'm like, chances are they're probably the same. But when you ask the question of, hey, how many people cross over and do both channels, right? And oftentimes you're met with the oh wow, the pregnant pause, as I like to say, the oh what? Like I don't know, right? And there's probably a lot of crossover. So here's my question to you. Should brands know what the crossover is? And if there is, should there be the same messaging, or are brands better at just separating the messaging or the offers or whatever we want to call it between these two channels?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to answer your question because I'm going to pose it differently.
Okay.
I will argue that regardless of the crossover, and brands should definitely know what their crossover is,
Yeah.
100%. Regardless of the crossover, you have to understand that the medium dictates a different behavior. So the worst thing you could do, if we're going to say don't do something, the worst thing you can do is send the same message that you're sending in your text message in your email.
Okay.
They address different needs. And that's at the end of the day what we need to think about them as yes, I've given you my phone number, I've given you my email address. I don't want the same thing in both of those channels. I want the different needs to be met by the channel. So when we address that, what's the channel good for?
Yeah.
SMS, immediacy, timeliness, transactional stuff.
Right.
Think about that for SMS world. Email, longer thoughts, full, complete sentences, things that you want to think about, the pretty pictures. Little side note, I'm going to give everybody a top tip here. Test one thing. If you're going to test something in your your SMS program, test a true text message versus an MMS with an image. I will almost predict that the SMS will win.
And
Angie,
why? Why do you
my
say that? Why? Because aren't we all image driven, right? And we
not in
want
your
cool
text
stuff and
messages.
yeah.
Think about it. You've got less than 10 seconds. You're going to read the text. You're going to swipe away.
Nope.
That image is pretty. It's lifestyle-y. It's whatever. Are you saving that image? Really?
Yeah.
And of the hundreds of texts that you get in a day, the images that you stop long enough on are the ones of your family, of the cute little cat that your bestie sent you. Those are the pictures you care about in your text messages, not the ones from somebody's lifestyle pictures.
So you've heard it here first. You predict that the SMS will primarily, not all the time, but primarily beat the MMS message. Is this just for retail or is this across many different verticals?
I'll be honest, I have not tested it across other verticals. I haven't seen it as abused in other verticals.
Okay.
In retail, all of my tests have 100% gone SMS, and especially if you get down to the ROI, because you'll pay 3 to 5 times more for that image that's not doing you any good.
So we hear strategists, right? People who label themselves experts, and they're always talking about the journeys, right? And email journeys, and then layer on top of that SMS, and if they don't respond with X, you send Y. How do you feel about the intermixing? Because first of all, there's not your ESP, unless they've fallen off the planet, should have an integrated SMS and email inside their canvas, inside their journeys. If they don't, seek a new one. But you hear about these channels intermixing, whether it's in onboarding or whether it's in standard marketing email, starting standard marketing cadences. What are your thoughts on the intermixing based off of behaviors if they do or do not do something?
100% depends on the journey that we're looking for and the behavior I'm trying to attract.
Okay.
So if you think about it, I want, as part of my welcome, lead nurture, orientation, whatever you're calling that first set of touches, I want somebody to give me their phone number. Whether I've tried to get it as a popover on your website, or I'm going to follow up of, hey, give me your phone number. Give me that give me another channel that I can reach you in. I want that data. That's the thing. So I may add in some confirmation pieces, some explanations that I'm not going to over text you. I'm not going to send you a text today for the rest of your life, I promise. I'll do that in those early journeys. Anything that's a post-purchase journey, I might change and put an off ramp that if they are engaging with text messaging, I may send them that in lieu of an email, or more immediately and follow up an email with a nice delay step of a day or two, because they don't need the receipt if they've already gotten, confirmation of delivery through their text messaging.
Yeah.
What I'm not a big fan of is looking at that reactivation bucket. Those people that have fallen off for other reasons that, unfortunately they don't tell me, so I have to guess.
Yeah.
They've fallen off. I kind of feel it's a little pushy. They've stopped engaging with my email, so I'm going to send them a text message.
Yeah.
Like I could see it the opposite. They stopped engaging with my text messages, I might send them an email.
Right.
I will give one of my bold statements of when they stop engaging with your email, think about sending them a direct mail piece if you're going to
Yep.
think about your channels.
Mm-hmm.
Layer something else in there, but I think that the text needs to be reserved and in the US specific, and we should call this out.
Right.
This is country specific and culture specific. In
Absolutely.
this country, in our US,
Mm-hmm.
we don't look at SMS as being a sales channel. We
Right.
see it as being a transactional channel, an immediacy channel. When you talk about other countries,
Mm-hmm.
they're primarily text-based.
Yep.
There's an entire culture of people that's where they get their sales, and they want their transactional stuff in email, which blows our minds.
Right.
Because that's a storage set, email
Yep.
storage for them, and I don't understand
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think about it in terms of what your goals are. Keep the
Uh,
goals simple, your off-ramps go simple.
and I'm going to do the duh moment, but believe it or not, I want to say the duh moment because it happens quite regularly. Um, last 2 days, I've received a text, an SMS message from a brand from which I signed up maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And I know this sounds like, of course, Andrew, you should do this. Immediacy is key, right? Because I often hear we want to do SMS. We want to get into that channel. So they go on a land grab of all of these different phone numbers, right? And then they wait and they sit on them. And then we're like, okay, we are now ready to go with our SMS program. Meanwhile, Joe Blow that signed up 4 or 5 months ago gets a text and they're like, what the hell is this? Right. And so before you embark on a program or want to set up an SMS program, whatever it is to do, whatever, right, that you don't wait, that you interact and at least acknowledge, give something, give anything to somebody that can do it, because blindsiding them, I sent a message back. I'm like, who the hell is this? Right. Like I didn't know. It's some kooky, crazy link, right? I'm not going to click on it. Type of stuff. So immediacy is key. And I'm going to agree with you on different countries and different cultures, especially if you are an international brand.
Yeah.
Be very cognizant of what the company or what the country and the cultures are before you haul off and start doing international SMS, and ensure that you're following the instructions of the carriers, because it's not some Google or Yahoo that's changing the goalposts like they do with deliverability. This is all carrier specific. So I'm gonna turn the tables, Tricia, and if you can comment on that. But I want to ask a question of, do you feel that there are certain verticals that should not be or have an SMS program because it really isn't worthwhile and in addition worth the cost?
Oh, that one's really a tough one. Just to back up, really, I want to close the loop on your immediacy piece of the puzzle. In
Yeah.
every strategic engagement I have ever done that starts with, we're going to build an SMS program, the first thing I do is I say, stop, let's build your first campaign.
Yep.
I want that campaign built before we gather the first phone number. Because if you haven't thought through how you're going to talk to people in this channel, you shouldn't get the first phone number. And trust me, it is a 12-week cycle to get approved by the carriers.
Yeah,
It's
that's
such
another
a
thing.
long lead. There should be no reason that you don't have that first campaign. First, second, and third would be ideal, but get the first one buttoned up and planned and on the table and in your platform of choice so that it's there when phone number one comes in. So what verticals don't work for SMS? I'd say anything that's in the sin categories, I think
Yeah.
are ripe for not doing great SMS.
Yeah.
Just from a standpoint of like, let's keep it clean, people.
Yeah.
Um, I really hesitate to think in terms of a vertical that it's not appropriate for. I think it's
Sure.
very important you think about the messaging. The FinServ vertical does SMS very, very well by strictly keeping it to transactions,
Right.
keeping it to password resets and things that are very two-factor and security based. That's
Mhm.
excellent.
Right.
On the other hand, the B2B space probably shouldn't necessarily be in the text messaging space
Right.
because these are our private phones. That's very rarely these days is it your business phone. These are
Mhm.
our private. Stay out of my evenings. That's kind
Yeah.
of a
Yep.
general rule of thumb. Um,
Totally.
but I can't tell somebody
I'm
they
gonna add
can't do
on.
it.
Go ahead. I'm gonna add on to another vertical. And again, this is fairly controversial. I'm gonna say publishing. And in a way that if I get a text message from XYZ publisher about men's health, right? And um I don't read, maybe I'm just a litmus of one. I don't read a lot on my phone, partly because I don't like the size of it. I need larger text, but I also don't want to be interrupted, right?
Mm.
At any point in time to read about what night should get a prostate exam, right? Type of stuff, or publishing around whatever. I should have to be able to have that channel. I should be able to pull from that channel, not have it pushed to me. That's just a litmus of a 54-year-old male, right? Maybe the 25-year-old people love that kind of stuff. I just think that there's a lot, and you could go overboard in the publishing space because of all the content that's being created to push out SMS. So who gets their dibs on getting out that SMS? And theoretically, you can probably send a text message 3 times a day with content, right? And it
Well,
just get
that goes to universal Tricia rule number like 40 of don't push content via SMS. I don't think it's a content channel.
okay,
I think you can do a lot more in
right,
modules within email to convey content.
right,
Um, I mean, there's several productivity companies out there that do SMS and they do it
mm-hmm,
decently.
mm-hmm,
Um, and reminders of the products and things like that that they're doing, but they're not pushing big content pieces. And you got to be careful because again, small attention span, and
mm-hmm,
it's disruptive to somebody else's life. One of the universal tenets in my world is we put the subscriber in the center of their journey.
and
Whatever
full
journey they're
transparency.
on, that's
Absolutely.
who you're talking to. I don't want to be an interrupter because, quite frankly, that's a great way for them to go, stop. I don't want to
Yeah,
talk to you
we're
anymore.
done. Yeah. So I think it's an obvious choice if you run both programs, right? So there's maybe the SMS and the email person, and they, excuse me, there are the one and the same, and they can control some of the things that they do. But what about larger organizations or organizations that rely on both channels? We use the term, or at least the this name of this session is "Do It Right or Don't Do It at All." So we're probably speaking to the organizations that have dual silos or dual role or different roles that do both of these. Um, how do people do it right in larger organizations? What should they do? How do they get together? Um, Other than the obvious of you guys should meet, not be on either side of the office. Like what would you advise people that have got
I was
dual?
I was going to say the first and most basic answer is talk to each other.
Yeah.
I believe fervently in an actual communicated content calendar
Mm-hmm.
where we communicate these things. I believe I'm a huge believer in a roadmap. I know.
No, I am too.
I'm a
I'm too.
strategist and I
Yeah.
advise people all day long, and I love a good roadmap. But one of
Mm-hmm.
the things I do when I build them is I take that marketing journey that we all got in college
Mm-hmm.
of the life cycle that starts with awareness and what do I want to talk to somebody that's never heard from me before, and get them to buying and repeat buying and ultimately to the holy grail of advocacy. And I
Mm-hmm.
take that and I line up, what am I talking about at this point? What channels am I using? What am I sending in those channels? And if
Mm-hmm.
I do that right, and then
Mm-hmm.
I can lay into it, what is your ad hoc strategy on top of it and all of those
Right.
pieces. But you start with that foundation of I'm talking to somebody at their point in their journey, and I
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying. Well, now it becomes really easy to have the conversation. We're going to talk about people that are in awareness right now. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about what texts they should get and what emails they should get and what direct mail pieces they should get. Because quite frankly, it's not just a dual silo, it's a multi-silo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we also need to loop in, and this is sacrilege, Andrew, I know. We
Oh,
need to
baby.
loop in those growth people and talk to them
Yep.
about who they're targeting that are the acquisition point for my world, because they
Mhm.
can go out and get these really great names that are really bad leads.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
we've got to start talking full circle and get everybody in a room or virtual room and
Mhm.
have common goals.
Yep.
If we could solve the world's problems, give all of them at least a single common goal so they all can work together on
And the one I'm going to add on to that point, 100% agree everything you said. First of all, everybody, it is not a competition.
it.
You're
No.
not competing with each other. You're competing. You're competing to make the omni-channel, multi-channel, dual channel, quad channel, whatever you want to call it, the best channels are the best way to communicate through the journey, like you had mentioned. Everyone always feels like, well, those are those guys and they do their thing, and those are those gals and they do their thing, right? And we have goals that we have to meet for the year, and so technically maybe we'll meet once a quarter, once a year to align all of our goals, and then sort of shuffle off and do our own thing, and not really realize that you're pretty much going after the same customer, potential customer, but more importantly, you're not competing inside your own organization. You are competing, however, with other organizations. Whether or not they are your direct competitor or not, you're competing for the attention. So the attention of the inbox, the attention of your iMessage or whatever messaging platform you use, and what they do. And I think that's really important, and it's really hard to bridge that gap, right? To jump
It,
over.
I wish this was, it's an easy answer to a complicated problem. And I wish that there was a really like, oh, if you did these 4 things and everybody would be working well together on your digital marketing team. And quite
Mhm.
frankly, that's why there's some really great agencies out there,
Yeah.
is we help solve some of those problems just
Right.
from the standpoint of sitting back and going, these are some best practices, and pushing for and advocating for the
Mhm.
subscriber. The
Yeah.
goal isn't that email grows as a percentage of the total business, which I
Mhm.
will argue it kills the organization. It creates those silos when we start talking about percent of business.
Mhm.
It's not about email or SMS growing as percent of business. It's the net new subscriber that becomes a buyer, that becomes a
Mhm.
repeat buyer, that then advocates for us and
Mhm.
becomes free advertising.
Yep.
That's what we all should be that's the price. If we
Yep.
focus on them, the rest of
Mhm.
it all comes together.
Yep.
But the
Yep.
hardest thing we will ever do is focus solely on them and say, oh, it's okay that text got that conversion. It's
Yeah.
okay, because
Yeah.
we've never solved multi-channel attribution.
And everyone always wants to talk about multi-channel, omni-channel, or there's some topic for some conference that we all go to. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, right? Like attribution starts at the company level, not at a conference level. We can give you guys some advice to do it, but ultimately, right? Like you guys got to figure this stuff out before we start talking about our whiz bang awesome omni-channel. And a true story before I want to jump into our final thoughts. I once showed up on an audit to a very large brand, and we were there to audit their email program, their multi-channel program. And we started doing the interviews, and I had a whole section around SMS. And they said, "Oh, well, we don't we don't want to involve the SMS people in this blueprint, in this discussion, in this audit." And I said, "Well, why?" And they're like, "We don't get along, and they shouldn't be a part of this." And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? Right? Because I want to make your brand better. And yet there's this infighting going on because they're all so competitive and treated as such. And they just shook my head. I'm like, we need them in this, right? They
Mhm.
need to be in this section. You can't answer these questions for them. And it's sad. I mean, it really truthfully is. So, folks, get together. Kumbaya, get around a fire, roast some marshmallows, do something cool with one another, and get along. All right. So, Tricia, what are your final thoughts, key takeaways, whatever somebody who's watching this, listening, taking notes, what do you want them to know about doing it right or don't doing it all, both in email and SMS?
At the very core, just because a conference or someone or somebody that knows theoretically what they're talking about has
Mhm.
told you that you need an SMS program, don't take that at face value. Actually do the research of if you should do a, an SMS program. We assume everybody in the world's got an email program. I would actually challenge that question also. If
Mhm.
you are new in the space and you've been told by, and especially by your ESP, if you have been told, oh, you need to have this now new thing because it's new and shiny and text messages are here to stay, stop. Because the ESP is incentivized for you to send more messages. Is it good for your customer? If you can't answer that question unequivocally yes,
Mhm.
don't do it.
Yep.
You will be duct taping and band-aiding and putting gum and paper clips to put a program together just
Yep.
because somebody, primarily your ESP, has told you you ought to do it. And my favorite story
Yeah.
is that I've watched a brand that I love
Yeah.
do texting. They've texted me every day for the last 5+ years. I have never clicked through because I note these things. Never
Yeah.
clicked through a text. I've never purchased through a text.
Yep.
But every single day I get their sale message that I also got in my email box.
Yep.
Every single day at 8:30 in the morning, regardless of where I have been.
Yep.
I won't unsubscribe because it costs them $1 every time they send me this thing.
Yep.
And I think about all of the hundreds of other thousands of people out there that are costing them $1
Yep.
every time they send this out. And all I
Yeah.
want them to do is not send me one morning so I can go, you finally cleaned your list.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's my 5.
That those are great. I have two key takeaways, folks. SMS is an amazing channel. It is, however, not as easy and quick to get up to speed like email. Like you can switch ESPs overnight, or you can send a new email out pretty much almost instantaneously, depending upon the size of your brand and all of that. Enterprise is a little bit different. SMS takes time, and like you said, right, have a plan. Just don't wait for the numbers to come in and that you're approved to the carriers and then go, okay, now what do we do? Right. You guys should go through the whole planning stages. So have a plan, stick to it. Make sure that you ask yourselves, how can we take SMS and integrate it with our email program? Or maybe it doesn't, right? Maybe it doesn't to a certain degree, but take the time to really sit back and say, why should someone sign up for your email program? And second key takeaway that we didn't talk about was signing up. Don't guilt them. Don't tell them they should sign up. Don't make it a requirement. Don't take for granted that anyone can have an email address. Anyone can have 12 email addresses, and we call them the burners, right? It's really hard to give a burner SMS or a burner phone number, right? It's not the olden days. So that to me is even more personal than an email channel, right? And so make sure that you take your time. When we're offline, I want to know this brand that you just mentioned because I want to sign up for them. We're not going to, we don't name and shame
Nope.
type of stuff.
I will
Um,
gladly tell you, but I will
yeah,
tell you this.
yeah,
You talked about the sign up piece.
yeah,
Exchange of information should cost the brand something.
yes,
Don't expect me to give up any information as a customer, any information without you giving me something of value in exchange. And the value, no different than when we were training our dogs. The
yeah,
higher the value, the more I'm going to give up. So
mhm,
if you want my email address, low value, everybody's got one, or most people, what is it? 94% of the population now has an email address.
yeah,
Um, Low value, give a little.
mhm,
You want my phone number? You want direct contact access to me? Give
mhm,
a lot.
yeah.
Give something that's valuable for that, and then honor that gift that I just gave you. You do
Amazing.
nothing else. That's how you do it right.
We're going to end it on that note because you said it right. I can't make that statement or add on to that any better. Folks, I know we're in a little bit long, but Tricia and um, I think hopefully provided you some value. And if we haven't, Sorry. If we have, and you want to get a hold of us, you know where to, you will put Tricia's deets on where we can find her on LinkedIn. I am absolutely positive that she will be more than happy to accept your LinkedIn invite and hopefully work with you guys in the future. So, Tricia, thank you so much. It's been an honor for you to be a part of Email Never Sleeps, and to everybody that continuously watches this program, and I know some of you. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for your continued feedback. And until next time, keep doing email. Now, if you're doing email and SMS, do it right. Hopefully take away some stuff. And we'll see you on the next Email Never Sleeps. Thanks again, Tricia. Take care.
Thank you, Andrew.